Let's take a look at PictoChart. PictoChart is a graphic design platform for the amateur. It includes interactive capabilities through the use of hyperlinks, and it is designed for the average user. On a personal level, PictoChart can be used for invitations, flyers, posters. For example, this one that we created for my boss as she left and went to a new workplace. PictoChart can also be used in the professional, maybe business setting for posters, data presentation, marketing, or organizational charts, such as this one that we created for our parents coming into school so that they could see who was part of our department. And the educational uses are pretty varied, but they include concept visualization, data reporting, exploration, learner-centered projects. Here's just one example from a class earlier in my learning design and technology program where we were to answer the question, what makes an expert using visualization? To get started with PictoChart is pretty easy. You just need to sign up with an email account, create your password, and you are ready to go. PictoChart does ask some extra questions in case you want templates and other created products sent your way that match your context or your tasks more personally. Benefits to the educational setting: PictoChart invites creative projects. It also allows concrete visualization of the more abstract ideas. It provides visual scaffolding for comprehension. It can be an exploratory springboard for learners. It's accessible, shareable, and printable. There are limitations. Learners have to create their own accounts to use the platform, so this could be time-consuming, especially within the K-12 environment. Instructors should be careful to watch the entry skills of their students so that the learning of PictoChart doesn't overshadow the actual project purpose. The free account allows learners to create only 5 boards, or users to create only 5 boards, which is pretty limited. And hyperlinks open a new window, which can become confusing or annoying. Updates can cause havoc, for example, taking away prior images or changing fonts, and the link sharing can be quirky. The learner-centered potentials are pretty high. Learners can create a graphic that allows them to teach other learners. So for example, toward the beginning of, actually in the first class of my learning design and technology program, we were to create graphics to trace the evolution of technology and learning theories over time. So we then presented them to our classmates as a way of learning and continuing to teach each other. Authentic learning, for example, instead of just having learners write a persuasive essay, then having them convert that into a poster that they could post around the school or around the community to convince people of their point of view. Instructors can make PictoChart boards as a base of exploration. So this was a volunteer presentation. I gave them the links to these, and within the PictoChart board, the volunteers could then look around later for some of the presentation points. And also there were collaborative documents embedded here for them to use as they went throughout their volunteer experience. So I plan to use PictoChart as one of the one of the possible platforms learners can use for this project. They should put 5 web sources on a credibility spectrum and justify the placement of each of these sources. The reason I'm using this approach, I want PictoChart to be part, or another similar platform to be a part of making the learning concrete, both for the learners to see it themselves, they see their own learning and then present it to their classmates, and then also for the instructor to use as a form of assessing their amount of learning. And then PictoChart takes a somewhat dry part of the pre-writing stage, that is analyzing resources, and makes it a creative and more involved process. And using PictoChart in this way will provide learners with an engaging springboard for peer discussion. They can post links to their PictoChart, and then learners can comment on the placement of the websites that they are seeing on the credibility spectrum in their classmates. So this will be about the 3rd step in a 4-step process within the lesson. In conclusion, PictoChart is a user-friendly graphic design platform. Its pros include that it does have a free version, it has a low learning curve, and plenty of creative opportunity and visual power for learning comprehension. The cons include the limited number of creations, that being only 5, the sign-up process required, and some software bugs. Educational potentials are pretty high, and I would give this an overall rating of a B+ for its accessibility and versatility, but the downside of its high limitations on the free version.